guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Algebra 2 with Mr. Drabinski. And today we're going to be talking about Lesson 14, which is determining a solution method to quadratic equations. So the goal here is going to be to be able to determine and use the most effective solution method for solving quadratic equations between the three that we've learned in the previous lessons. In lesson 4 we talked about, in lesson 10 we talked about using square roots to solve. In lesson 11 we talked about using factoring when x squared, the coefficient in front of x squared, is 1. And then in lesson 12 it's when the coefficient is bigger than 1 or negative number. We talked about factoring that way, and then lesson 13 was using a quadratic formula. So in this lesson we're going to talk about determining an effective method of solving. So facts to know first is the quadratic formula really can be used in any, when square roots or factoring can be used, the quadratic formula can be used instead. So it can be used for any of the methods, but it's not always the most efficient or quickest way. So that's where being able to choose the method is important. And the second fact is that to use the coefficients a, b, and c in a quadratic equation, it should be in standard form, which is when your exponent, the highest exponent is first, the second highest is second, and so forth. So for example, if I have 2x minus 3 minus 4x squared, that's not standard form because the x squared, the 2 is my highest exponent, so that term should be first. That would be, the negative 4 would be my a coefficient. So to rewrite this in standard form, I would rewrite it as my first term with the highest exponent is negative 4x squared. My middle term would be the 2x or plus 2x. And then my last term is minus 3. And so now this would be considered standard form, and from here I could choose the solution method. And then another thing that I came up with to kind of help think about which of the three methods to use is this flow chart here. So let me walk you through this. The first question you could start with is the linear term, the term in the middle if it's in standard form, is it not there or 0? So yes, the middle term is not there. For example, if you have 3x squared plus 5 equal to 0 and you're asked to solve this, the linear term, like in here it's 2x, here it's not there. So this would be a good one to use square roots with, like you learned in lesson 10, where you solve for x squared and then square root to get the answer. Now, in some cases, in a lot of cases, the middle term will be there. For example, you can take x squared plus 3x plus 2 equal to 0. So you have the a, b, c, a1, b3, c2. So the middle term is there. Then you can break it up into two other questions to decide between factoring or the quadratic formula. So, for example, you could ask, can you quickly and easily find factors where the first coefficient times the last also adds to b? So let's take this example again for the yes. X squared plus 3x plus 2. My a coefficient here is 1. My b is 3, my c is 2, and so in order to successfully factor, I can think, can I multiply to a times c, which is 2, and at the same time those numbers have to add to the middle term, which is 3. And that's a pretty easy one to say yes I can to, because 2 times 1 is 2 and 2 plus 1 is 3. So this is a good one then to apply factoring to in order to solve. Now on the other hand, I might have something like 8x squared plus 5x minus 21 equal to 0. Now my a is 8, my b is 5, and my c is 21. And since my A and C are so big as it is, maybe I can find something that multiplies to whatever 8 times negative 21 is and adds to 5. But at the same time, I don't want to go through an entire list of factors to see can I do it or not. So this would be a good one to apply the quadratic formula to, like we learned in lesson 13. Quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula could also be used for this one or this one, but oftentimes if you understand all three ways, you'll see that these two are more effective when you can use them than the quadratic formula. So as an exercise, let's go through and think about which method we would use. So I'm asked to solve x squared minus 4x minus 5. I'm thinking, well, first of all, a is 1, b is negative 4, c is negative 5. I'm thinking, can I multiply to get 1 times negative 5, which is negative 5, and at the same time add to get b, which is negative 4. And that's a pretty easy one again to say yes to, because negative 5 times 1 is negative 5, and negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. So this one could definitely be factored successfully. Now let's consider 2x squared plus 6x plus 1. Again, a is 2, b is 6, c is 1. So I can think about, can I multiply to 2 first times last, or a term times c term in standard form, and also add to 6. And here, this is impossible to do. 2 times 1 are the only factors, or negative 2 times negative 1, but either way I won't be able to add to 6. And since there's a middle term there, this one, the quadratic formula, would be the only way to successfully solve it. And then finally I have 9x squared plus 3 equal to 0. Thinking about like the middle term, that's 0, b is 0, or not there. I can use square roots there, so subtract 3 from both sides. 9x squared equal to negative 3, divide by 9, and so forth. I would square root that in order to solve using square roots. So that would be a better setup for using square roots rather than factoring or the quadratic formula. So with that said, in the practice there are 6 questions that got renumbered or numbered backwards for some reason. But in any case, you guys are going to look at your quadratic equation. You're asked to write it in standard form if it's not already. Write what solution method you would use, and then apply that solution method to solve. So give it a try, and again, the goal is to be able to first write it in standard form, understand which solution method to use, and then apply that solution method into solving. And that will get us close to wrapping up our unit on quadratic equations and quadratic functions. Thank you, and if you guys have any questions or concerns, feel free to get a hold of me or hop on to Zoom office hours.